Good morning, everyone. It is now 8:41. The quarterly meeting of the Executive Committee for the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council will come to order. I appreciate everyone for attending. Would Ebony Haven please call the roll for attendance, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Jill Hano.
Here.
Ms. Angela Harmon. Ms. Brooke Stewart.
Here.
Just remember that you have to keep your camera on, in order to be counted towards the quorum. And Mr. Eric Taylor. And Ms. Renata Washington.
Here.
You have 3 and you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ebony. And hello to the Executive Committee. At this time, we will have Ebony to read the mission statement and the ground rules.
The Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council's mission statement is to increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for Louisianians with developmental disabilities by engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and systems change. The ground rules are: members must be recognized by the chair before speaking, be respectful of each other's opinions, break for 10 minutes every 1.5 hours, discuss council business in a responsible manner, except as necessary, restrict the use of electronic communication, i.e. texting, during council and committee meetings, silence or turn off all cell phones. The mission statement is posted at every meeting, be on time for meetings, no alphabets, and side conversations should be kept to a minimum, done quietly, and restricted to the subject at hand.
Thank you so much, Ebony. To ensure the meeting runs smoothly and that we all can participate in an orderly manner, please adhere to the following rules. For committee members and members of the public attending in person, please raise your hand to speak and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. To help the public members in person will then be called on, followed by public participating virtually who have their hands raised. Comments in the Q&A chat will be addressed last. As with all hybrid meetings, it can be difficult to keep track of all those wanting to speak in person and virtually. So please be patient with this. All comments and questions from committee members and public may be limited to 3 minutes or less should we run into the time constraints. So please keep that in mind. Also, comments about a person's character will not be allowed. Finally, members of the public will have the opportunity to provide public comment before each vote and during designated public comment periods. The chair may also use their discretion to determine if comments will be accepted outside of those times. The next item of business is the approval of the meeting summary for the January 28th Executive Committee meeting, which was distributed. The meeting summary will not be read unless a member requests it. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to recommend.
Wait,
Oh, hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry. It's from the back, so. It should be, are there any corrections?
Sorry about that. Are there any corrections? If there's no objection, the meeting summary is approved as distributed. Hearing none, the meeting summary is approved. The next item of business is an update of the 2026 Legislative Advocacy Agenda. The chair recognizes Brenton Andrews for the update.
All right, so just a quick update on our advocacy agenda. Just as a reminder, we focused on 4 main priorities this session. And so that was restoring $250,000 for the GD Council budget, and it goes to our Families Help and Family Centers. $6.8 million for Louisiana Rehabilitation Services, $53.6 million to increase those home and community-based service rates and direct support worker pay, and then creating an emergency alert for people with disabilities. As far as the budget goes and those funding issues, so we've been tracking House Bill 1, that is the state budget bill or the main state budget bill. And that will go into effect July 1st. It is currently, it was on the House side, and it is moving to the Senate side now. It has made it through the House. We were able to get the $250,000 restored for Families Helping Families. They did add $2 million for LRS, so that is shy of what we were asking for, but that is additional funding for LRS. And there was no funding that was added for rate increases or direct support worker pay. On a positive note, it's not included in our agenda, but there was quite a few community choices waiver slots that were added in the budget on the House side, I think. Like 750, which is really great for the adult and aging side. For those of you that remember the new opportunities waiver from back in the day when we had that 12-year wait list, that is something that that population has been dealing with quite a bit. So it's really nice to see each year, at least for the last few years, they've been able to get additional slots for that, which is great. Like I said, the budget is now in Senate. We are expecting public testimony to happen in Senate Finance in the coming days or weeks. We have spoken with senators. There is additional interest out there in trying to get additional funding for LRS. There's also interest in trying to get funding for rate increases and direct support worker pay. That part is getting a little, not complicated, but I don't know how much funding, because obviously 53.6 million is quite a large number. And the department itself, Department of Health, has gone before the House, and it's my understanding, also having conversations with senators and representatives as well, that they are trying to encourage maybe doing this next year and not this year, because they want more information and more data, specifically with provider cost reports. They have updated those templates and feel like that will give better information for them to actually ask for funding next year. While I can appreciate their take on that, us and all the other organizations that have been advocating for this are moving forward with our original request because the rate study was put out, and that's what we're moving forward with. Questions about that, I'm sure they'll in the report that LDA or OCDD or Medicaid or whomever gives later, you can probably ask questions there. As far as the emergency alert legislation, there's several bills that deal with that. So SB 34 by Senator McMath is probably the main one at this point. It has passed the Senate, and so it's waiting to be heard in House Judiciary Committee. And so essentially what it does not create like a separate alert in the sense that there's an Amber Alert and there's a Silver Alert and then there's this other alert. But what it does is it creates a Brian's Call sort of moniker or alert within the level 2, always forget the level 2 endangered missing child alert, if you will, that already existed. And so that was an alert specifically for children that didn't meet that Amber Alert criteria. Maybe they were not abducted, but they are missing. And so what it would do is for those individuals that have a developmental disability, if you are within that age range of not being an adult, it would create that Brian's Call underneath that alert system or underneath that particular alert. And it would do the same for the Silver Alert. So that is the alert for adults. And if you have a developmental disability, it'll trigger a Brian's Call specifically under that. So there'll have to be some education there about specifically what a Brian's Call means. And that is kind of incorporated into the bill itself as well, of making sure people understand that and or are able to understand what it means whenever a Brian's Call is issued. There's also HB 74 by Representative Michael Echols on the House side, and there was also Senate Bill 227 by Senator Harris on the Senate side. It's my understanding Senator Harris has parked his bill because he's just going to work with McMath and just let that bill go through. HB 74, I kind of thought it was going to park for a little bit because session was moving along and it hadn't been heard, but it did make it out of the House the other day, so it's going to go to the Senate side. I am not certain if they're gonna continue hearing it on the Senate side, or if the Senate is just gonna try to say, hey, we already have one, we passed out, so we need to work together. But HB 74 specifically creates a spectrum alert, and it is more focused on children with autism than the developmental disability population that we've been advocating for as a whole of all age groups. And it doesn't have, I don't want to say it doesn't have a lot of teeth to it. It does, but it's more legislation that directs public safety to create this particular alert as far as spelling out what it would like to see in the alert. In legislation, it doesn't necessarily do that. It just says we're going to create this and you need to go and do it. Whereas SB 34, for instance, specifically has requirements listed about what this alert would look like. And so that is our four main issues that were on your advocacy agenda. If there's any questions, happy to take them.
Any questions, anyone? Any comments?
And we can drop our bill tracking link in the comments. It's a little bit, with the new website, it's a little bit harder to find. We put it on the same page as where our fact sheets are. And we try to include information about it in our alerts when we send them out, so it'll stay on people's minds if they want to go look at the legislation we're tracking. Because there's a lot more than just those four issues that we look at or that we do work on. But those are your four main issues that y'all approved in October.
There's no comments or discussion. The next item of business is consideration of the plain language council documents. The chair recognizes Ebony Haven to introduce the document.
Okay, so last year you all had an activity on your action plan where we not only created a new website, which was all plain language, but we wanted to look at some of the public facing documents that the council has, including our bylaws and our policies and procedures. So the contractor that we worked with, he looked at our bylaws and he took a look at our policies and procedures. And he basically converted those to plain language. Now, it's important to note that none of the intent that you all have in your bylaws and your policies and procedures has been changed. The only things that he pretty much changed was some of the flow. He felt like some of the sections didn't flow well, so he switched up some of the sections. But again, the content itself has not changed. So those documents are included online, but they're also in your packet. And I also, for the executive committee, I linked the original versions of those documents, so you all could take a look at like the differences between the plain language version and the original versions. I also want to add that he not only did a plain language version for the bylaws, he did an easy read version as well. So the easy read version makes things even more plain, and they have pictures. So the easy read version is very nice, especially if you're a visual learner like I am. So it's a very nice version, and it makes it very plain as far as what the council does. It goes, of course, our bylaws go into our committees, the executive committee, our standing committees and all of those things. But basically those documents just have been changed into plain language. So since we are gonna replace the original documents with these plain language versions, the council does have to vote on those. So I'm willing to answer any questions, or if anybody went through the bylaws or the policies and procedures, compared it to the original versions, and you felt like we needed to change something back, just let the staff know and we can make those changes. But that's basically what we've done, or what the contractor has done for the council in order to make our documents more plain language and accessible for everybody.
Thank you, Ebony. I love it. I love it. It looks really awesome. Executive committee, do you guys have any thoughts or anything you want to discuss about the plain language? Anything that you like, you dislike? Ms. Hayno, the chair recognizes you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is gonna be a silly question, but so you need both documents in plain language, but only the bylaws is the easy read.
Yes, yes. Jayla.
Okay, just wanted to dot my i's and cross my t's. I always mean to say it backwards on purpose, and I never do.
Thank you, Ms. Hayno. Anyone else would like to
Thank
discuss?
you.
Thank All right, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to recommend the plain language council documents.
I make a motion, this is Brooke Stewart, to accept the plain language documents presented today.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to accept a motion to recommend the plain language council documents. Is there any discussion from committee members? Is there any public comment? Are you ready for the question?
I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. 1 second, I'm sorry. So Nicole, just so they are approving all 3 documents at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're recommending to approve all 3 documents.
The motion made by
Brooke Stewart.
Stewart and
Is seconded by Eric Taylor.
We're gonna put it on the screen in just a second.
The question is, the executive committee recommends approval of the plain language and easy read versions of the council bylaws and policies and procedures made by Brooke Stewart, seconded by Eric Taylor. When Ebony calls your name, please respond with yes if you are in favor of the motion, or no if you are opposed to the motion, or abstain if you are not voting.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana, yes. Ms. Angela Harmon, Ms. Brooke Stewart,
Yes.
Ms. Brooke Stewart, yes. Mr. Eric Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, yes. We have 3 yeas, 0 nays.
The yes votes have it, and the motion is adopted. Okay, the next item of business is the consideration of the new council meeting schedule. The chair recognizes Ebony Haven to start the discussion.
Okay, so for those of you online, the document that we're gonna be referencing was not linked to the agenda, but it is online under the executive committee agenda. And so, of course, you all know that we tried out a new council schedule this quarter. In lieu of the Wednesday meetings that would have occurred on yesterday, we had the committee meetings throughout the quarter. Actually, this month, April 1st was the Self-Determination and Community Inclusion Committee. On April 8th, we had the Education and Employment Committee. On April 15th, we had the Act 378 Subcommittee. While this quarter has been going through, there have been a lot of concerns that were brought up about the schedule. And so this is something that I thought was important to bring back to the executive committee. Now, before we get to the council meeting expenses and options for our schedule, I kind of just want to, again, give a little bit of background for everybody. I know that we have some new members that are joining us, but I do want to give a little bit of background as to why we were doing this. We're doing this to basically make sure that we're utilizing our funding correctly. According to the DDA, only 30% of your budget, your federal allotment, can go towards administrative costs. The other 70% has to go towards the state plan. So, the reason I was bringing this up is because we're trading close to that 30% already in administrative costs, if we're not over. Because I'll just say, I've learned that some of the things that were being coded to the state plan should have been administrative cost. So we probably really over in administrative costs, and only 30% can be utilized for administrative costs. So the reason I was bringing this up is because of all the changes that were happening federally. And federally, you know that there's been talk about eliminating the USAIDs, taking money away from the DD councils and the P&As. And so I wanted you all to be proactive, just in case we don't get all of our funding, our $1.38 million. We needed to be proactive in eliminating some or reducing some of those administrative costs. Well, that isn't hypothetical anymore. And the reason why is because they've already started to reduce our federal allotment. Now, since I've been here, and I think since Brenton has been here, and he's almost been here for 10 years, or been here for 10 years, the allotment was $1.38 million. Last year, the allotment was $1.37 million. It was reduced by $3,290. So I know that's not a big number. And so I didn't even mention it last year because I thought it was one of those fluke things that would just happen. Well, we got our federal allotment for FY26, and it is reduced by another $9,150 for a net reduction of $12,440. So we're already starting to see reductions in our federal allotment while costs are continuing to rise. Food costs are continuing to rise. Hotel costs are continuing to rise. All of those costs are continuing to rise, and they are reducing your federal allotment. And so again, this is why I was bringing this issue up and why we needed to kind of change the schedule, because we wanted to try and reduce some of those administrative costs. So before we get into that document, does anybody have any questions about that part? I didn't include that in the document. I kind of just wanted to let you guys know.
The chair recognizes Ms. Hayno.
Did you say $12,440?
Yes, yes, I did, Jill. And it wasn't just Louisiana, let me make that clear. It was councils across the board. So of course, those with higher allotments than Louisiana, let's just take California. Their allotment was reduced by $76,000. And so we've been told by ACL that those reductions are due to administrative costs on their end. So they're reducing our funding to cover their administrative costs, but they have not increased our administrative ability or our administrative percentage for your federal allotment. It still remains at that 30%. So if they continue to decrease your allotment, that administrative percentage will continue to decrease. So I just want to put that out there, and because I know everybody's wondering why we're even considering a change. Well, it was hypothetical when I first brought it up, but it's a reality. They have started to decrease your federal allotment. Now, $12,000, it may not be a lot, but I can tell you that our NACDD dues that we pay every year are about $11,000. So that's basically that money right there. So I kind of just wanted to put things into perspective before we started to have the conversation about the options. So does anybody have questions? I know Melissa has her hand raised.
The chair recognizes Melissa.
Hi, Melissa Bayham with LRS. Just a question. I know we already have our projected budget for FY 27. Do y'all have that yet? You may not. In the president's budget
Yeah, we're reduced in the president's
Okay.
budget, yes.
for FY
It
27.
was the same as it was last year. The USAIDs have been eliminated and in his proposed budget, and the DD councils and PNAs are reduced. Now, we have gotten very good feedback from House Appropriations. They had a Dear John letter where I think we had a record number of Congress men and women who supported that letter. I think it was 85. It's in my executive director's report.
I was just curious.
But, yeah.
So the 12,000 is from FY 26.
Yes,
In 27, you have the same budget as 26, or you don't know yet?
we don't know that yet. Yeah.
Okay, we have a projected, but, okay.
Yeah, we don't know that yet because in the president's budget, he's recommending reducing the council and totally eliminating the USAIDs as he did last year.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Ms. Hayno. Any other discussion or comments on what Ebony just shared? We want to make sure that we get as many questions as we can so that we can truly make a decision on what we're going to do. Aiden, the chair recognizes you.
Thank you. Okay, so hypothetically, if someone was to vote for number 3.
Well, wait, Aiden, before you say that, let me get to those
Okay.
options so everybody can
Gotcha.
hear them.
Okay,
And then you can.
okay, I got you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if nobody
No.
has any other questions about our appropriation or our federal allotment, I'll go through this. Okay, so if you look at the first section on that document where it says average annual meeting expenses, I want to address something real quick. I started in April 2025 because in January we had unusual cost. We had, your council retreat, which was a little bit more than our normal January meeting. But we also had to move that meeting to a hotel, which we were getting free space at our office, but unfortunately, that space was taken away and we had to pivot really fast, so we had to have your meeting at a hotel. So I did not include those January costs. And this is only cost for council meetings. This does not take into consideration any ad hoc meetings that you all have that we cover cost for. So if you look at the average annual meeting costs based on April of last year, all the way to the meeting that you had in January, these are all the average costs that we spent on mileage, rental car, hotels, breakfast and dinner, Wednesday lunch, and Thursday lunch. So it basically adds up to the average meeting expenses being about $2,500 per meeting. Now, you know, you all have 4 quarterly meetings per year. So 25 times 4 is about $10,000. So on average for your quarterly council meetings only, we're spending about $10,000. So in order to reduce administrative costs for council meetings, we have 3 options for the council to consider. The first recommendation is the recommendation that you all tried out this quarter that a lot of people had concerns about. And that was to hold the committee meetings at different times throughout the quarter instead of the Wednesday before the council meeting. So what are the expenses that will be eliminated for that option? The rental car expenses will be eliminated, hotels, breakfast and dinner, and Wednesday lunch. So on average, the annual expenses that you all would save are about $5,840. So that's option 1 right there. Option 2 is 2 in-person meetings and 2 virtual meetings. We would hold those annually. So I want to be really, really clear about this part. Nothing in the schedule would change. So you would have your Wednesday committee meetings and your Thursday meetings for the full council. The only thing that would change is 2 of the meetings will be considered virtual. But just because we're calling those virtual does not mean that you can't attend in person. What it would mean though is that we would not cover the expenses. We would not cover the hotel, the rental car, the breakfast and dinner. We wouldn't cover lunch on Wednesday or lunch on Thursday. So the 2 virtual meetings, we wouldn't cover any of those expenses. But for the other 2 meetings that are in person, we would cover those expenses. Again, just because we're calling those virtual does not mean you have to attend virtually. You can still come in person. We just will not be covering those expenses. So if we look at the expenses that are eliminated, all of the expenses are eliminated twice a year. The annual savings that you all would save is $5,000. So it's not as much as recommendation number 1, but it is a significant amount of savings that you would save. Okay, any questions on option 2? Or option 1? I didn't ask for questions about option 1. Okay, so the last recommendation that we had was recommendation 3. And it would basically mean that we would conduct our committee meetings on Wednesday. The schedule wouldn't change, well, slightly. We would still have committee meetings on Wednesday and the full council will meet on Thursday. However, during the committee meetings, we would have the state agency representatives do their reports in those committee meetings instead of the full council meeting on Thursday. So the full council meeting will be from 9 to 12 on Thursday because we would eliminate all of the state agency reports because they're going to be giving those in the committee meetings on that Wednesday. So just to give you guys a visual of how that would work, if you look at the reports moved to Wednesday on this side, we have for the Self-Determination and Community Inclusion Committee, Medicaid would give their report in there. Disability rights would actually be in both committees because sometimes they have education items that they are reporting about as well. The Governor's Office of Elderly Affairs will be in SDCI. LSU Human Development Center would actually be in both committees as well. Office of Public Health, OCDD, or this Office for Citizens with Developmental Disabilities, and the Office of Aging and Adult Services. So those will be the committee reports in SDCI. For the Education and Employment Committee, we would have the Department of Education like we already do. We would have LRS, or the Louisiana Rehabilitation Services. Again, we would have Disability Rights and LSU Human Development Center. And then we would have GODA, or the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs. So the schedule for the Wednesday would not change. The only thing that would change would be that those committees would have those reports included in them instead of the full council meeting on Thursday. So if you look at the expenses that will be eliminated, the only thing that will be eliminated is the Thursday lunch. So on average, the savings for option 3 are $2,260. So those are the 3 options. That summary of recommendations, it basically goes over, like, it's a quick reference. If you want to look at the 3 options, what are the annual expenses for those 3 options? The annual savings and what expenses will be eliminated. I do want to go over one of the key takeaways one more time. Council members can choose to attend in person during virtual meetings for recommendation number 2. But the travel won't be reimbursed and meals won't be provided. So you can still come in person. I want to really make sure I drive that home. Because I know we're considering that a virtual meeting, but everybody can attend in person. So those are the 3 options that I wanted to bring before the committee. I'm willing to answer any questions, but if you all have any recommendations, we can take those as well.
Thank you, Ebony. Just a quick question for, option 3, just clarity. So the chairs, they have to, get the report and everything. How is that going to look? Maybe I'm missing something. Like on here, on this link, I kind of got thrown off when you read this. So the chair, will they, because they have to get the reports and all that kind of stuff. Is it gonna, if I'm making sense? Okay.
I think I understand what you're saying. So like in your chair's report, are you then gonna have to recap on Thursday
Yeah.
everything that the department
Yes.
said? I don't think that's the case. I think if you want those updates from the department, you need to attend those meetings, and the chair's report is kind of what we do now with some of the other committees. We acknowledge we have those reports. You can go online and find those reports. Rewatch the meeting on YouTube, and then we'll just discuss out of the committee more contractual and decisions made and motions made as opposed to the details of each report.
Thank you.
And I would say those agency reports
Sorry.
they get much more time, I think, in your council meeting to discuss their reports than they would get in the actual agency, in the committees. So staff would have to have that conversation based on things that the committees would want to hear about, like what parts of their report they should cover, as opposed to reading the whole
Okay.
14 pages that they might send in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the schedule? Aiden, you wanna go ahead with yours, or you still thinking?
I'm still thinking on that.
Okay.
Give me just a minute, so I.
Okay. Jill, the chair recognizes you, Ms. Hayno.
Okay, quick question, because I was initially going with option 3, but now I'm gonna keep y'all guessing, and who knows what she's gonna pick. She may resign. Okay, so before this even came out, I was thinking about the committee reports, because especially Medicaid, LRS, OCDD, and Department of Ed. Department of Ed, they speak in the committees anyway, and so I know that sometimes they end up talking about the same thing twice. So I think that's good, but my only concern is that our mandate, and I'm realizing that I'm tweaking what I originally thought, but the DD Act mandates LSU and Disability Rights LA. I was thinking, since those are federally mandated, if we went to tweak options, rehab, DRLA, and HDC present on meeting day on full council, but maybe not, because I see that they're both at both committees.
That's a good question, Jill.
Assuming I heard correctly, yes, HDC and DRLA are mandated to be on the council, but most of the representatives are mandated to be on our council. And so I think if you give DRLA and HDC the opportunity to present on Thursdays, you would likely have to extend that same opportunity to, just out of fairness, for the others.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're
Yeah.
right. That's not what I meant. I meant
Gotcha.
to say, and I didn't even realize this, but I meant to say, since they're the DD network
Gotcha.
partners. Sorry.
Have any other, is that another hand?
But my thing is this, how long we been seeing this before this shit should be coming, what's coming up that we need to do this? How long have it been seeing before we even had to bring it to the table? Before this even been brought up, how long have it was a concern that we might have to do something like this?
I can
Mr.
So I'm pretty sure that I brought it up in the October 2025 meeting, Eric. That was the first time I brought it up. I'm pretty certain that the staff can kind of, yeah. I brought it up in October 2025, and again, at that time, I didn't realize that you all were gonna continue to get a reduction in your federal allotment, your federal funding. It was really hypothetical. I wanted you all to be proactive just in case we were reduced funding, but it's a reality now. And so I'm not sure what's gonna happen for FY 27. But I do know for FY 26, you all have been reduced a net $12,440.
Mr. Taylor, does that answer your question?
But why didn't we put this in place? And just in case something came up like this, why we couldn't do a trial basis at the beginning before something even came up? So we wouldn't have to put something on the table like this.
So if I'm understanding your question right, the option that you guys trialed this past quarter was recommendation number 1. So that was a trial run that we got a lot of concerns about, which is why we're bringing this back to the table. So a lot of people had a lot of concerns about not having the committee meetings on Wednesday and having them throughout the quarter. So now we're gonna have to choose either option 2 or 3, or if you guys want to continue with option 1, that's something that the committee is gonna have to make a decision about which one you all want to recommend to the full council.
And I appreciate you doing that, Ms. Haven, because, you did bring this to us, prior. And so now that you're saying that it is reality, it shows your, you and the staff's expertise in looking, in the well-being of the council. So I appreciate you doing that. And so executive, committee, we just have to, in our discussion, as Ebony, stated already, we have to choose something, to bring to the full council. I think that Ebony has made it clear on the reason of the why. So we now have to choose something, okay?
So-
Any hands?
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Brooke Stewart, the chair recognizes you.
Thank you. I really like the 2 virtual and 2 in person. I feel like it's the best of both worlds, and I think it alleviates some of the pressure for like the parents and like the working parents that let me just put you may have had issues attending all 4 because you wanted to be in person, but if you can just put these two virtual, the 2 in-person options, I think that would be the best option for the full council.
Thank you so much, Brooke. Great discussion.
Ebony, did you want to go ahead before me?
Yeah, let me just clarify something. I know that I mentioned like the 30% for administrative costs a little earlier. I just want to clarify that has always been the case. We have always been restricted on our administrative costs to the 30%, and 70% has to go towards your state plan. So I don't want you all to think that that's something brand new. That's not. It's always been that way, 30-70. The reason I brought it up today was because that 30% is starting to decrease. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that part. So, there wasn't any confusion. So,
Thank you, Ebony.
Mhm.
The chair recognizes Aiden.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. I was for option 3 in the beginning. And I just want people to understand there are a diverse group of people on this board. Some are parents, some are council members and board members. Some of us also have people that, excuse me, we depend on to bring us to said meetings. Not all of us can drive, and not all of us can get to meetings. So I just want the people that can drive and do things that others can't to take that into consideration as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. The chair recognizes.
I just had a question for Ebony. What was the total savings with the relocation and having a conference room here and not having to have an off-site conference room? What was that projected at?
I would have to look at that, Mike, because for the last year, well, outside of that January council meeting, because we did have to pivot to the hotel, we haven't had to pay for like hotel costs. The library was free.
Right.
So I would have to look back a couple of years to get you like those numbers. I know when I first started, they were spending an astronomical amount of money at the Embassy Suites,
Right.
which is where we would host those, meetings.
That's what I was.
So I know that we have been saving money for sure. We were hosting the meetings in our office on corporate initially. But when he rented that space out, we had to pivot to the library, so that was also free. So I would have to go back and look. I can get you a number though.
I was just curious.
Do we have any other comments or discussion? Aiden, the
I
chairman.
wanna add one more thing and then I'm quiet. I just wanna say that the ones of us on the board with a disability, we're more than a number. We are human, just like everybody else in this room. And we deserve our voice to be heard. I personally think that if we can be here in person, we're seen versus if we're on virtual, we're not seen as much. So that's something else I would like for people who can make it to meetings to understand how important it is for us to be here in person instead of virtual.
Thank you.
And that's all I'm adding.
Ms. Haven, I do, could you share with us what it will look like if we go over budget? Or we, we do not adhere to, an option or choose something that's flexible or that will work to reduce expenses. What will it look like if we go? Let's give the council a
So,
You know.
I mean, the federal government, we do have to submit our program performance report, which does have our financial information on there, but every year when we do our state plan, when we submit our state plan, I basically have to project like administrative costs and then what costs are gonna be towards the state plan. And so if you all go over that, there are like consequences. Number one, your federal allotment could be taken away, your federal funding could be taken away. And so, or they could, give us a
corrective action.
make us pay it back. That's another option. Or yeah, we could be under a corrective action plan. There are a lot of options that the federal government could take. If they determine that we have exceeded administrative costs. Again, this is something that I have to submit to them every year. What do I think our projected administrative costs are gonna be? And what do I think, or what are our projected state plan, costs? So,
I just want us to look at the bigger picture. I know that this will be a change for us, but it's about what's best for the council, We do not want any of those things to occur. So what do we do? So, just wanted to kind of add that on what will be consequences also. So executive committee, let's consider all of the information that is being shared. And, let's take a quick pause and let's just see what would be the best thing for the council. That's the decision that we're making. And I know that we all have feelings and things like that, but what would be the best recommendation for the council is what we're determining. So with that being said, any other question or discussion? Do we have any hands raised?
We had a hand raised, Ms. Brenda Kosei. She dropped it. I'm not sure if she still wants to speak. Ms. Brenda Kosei.
The chair recognizes Ms. Brenda. Okay. All right, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
We're just waiting for, Miss Brenda had her
Oh.
hand up. I unmuted her, but, I don't know if she's having technical.
Good
difficulties.
morning.
Oh, there we go.
Good morning, Ms. Brenda.
Oh, yes, thank you so much, Council. I think, that last comment was the best. What is the best for the council? As a former council member, and a parent of a child with disabilities, we want to do what we can to continue these meetings, and so that everybody could be well informed. We thank the council for their dedication over the decades. And thank you so much for this discussion. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda, you too. Okay. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion. Okay, entertain a motion to, entertain the new council meeting schedule. The chair recognizes Brooke Stewart.
I would like to make the motion to have the two virtual, two in person. That option.
Okay, recommendation two, thank you, Brooke. Is there a second? Aiden?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Stephanie. That's okay. It is moved and seconded to recommend the option two for the new council meeting schedule. Is there any discussion from committee members? Is there any public comment? Okay, are you ready for the question? Okay. Okay, are you ready for the question? The question is on the executive committee recommends option two as the new meeting schedule starting in July 2026, made by Brooke Stewart, seconded by Gio Hano. When Ebony calls your name, please respond with yes if you are in favor of the motion, or no if you're opposed to the motion, or abstain if you're not voting.
Ms. Jill Hano,
Yes.
Ms. Hano, yes. Ms. Angela Horman, Ms. Brooke Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Eric Taylor,
Abstain.
you abstain.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor
Yes.
abstains. So that's two yeas, one abstention.
Okay. Ebony, you said 2 yeses and 1. abstain.
2 yeses and abstention.
Okay, the yes votes have it and the motion is adopted. Is there any public comment?
I think Jill has her name.
The chair recognizes Ms. Hayno.
Okay, so with this, will the committee meetings go back to like everything's going back to normal? Is that like the committee meetings are gonna be the Wednesday before, not this one meeting a week?
Right, that's correct, Jill. Everything's going back to the way it was. Wednesday committee meetings, Thursday full council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Is there any other public comments? Okay. All right. All right. Thank you all for your comments, questions, and concerns. At this time, we will have the announcements. The chair recognizes Ms. Haven. Yeah.
Well, we have our full council meeting in about 15 minutes, right after this meeting starts at 10 o'clock. So see you guys in 15 minutes.
Thank you, Ebony. Is there any further business? Okay. Hearing none, if there's no objection, we will adjourn the meeting. Hearing no objection, this meeting is now adjourned at 9:44. Thank you, Executive Committee, and everyone who was in attendance.